Hello everyone, my name is Simran Chaudhary and I welcome you all on behalf of Voice of Healthcare to a one-of-a-kind initiative where we are continuously creating awareness on important health issues. Today, on World Thalassemia Day, we are interacting with Mrs. Shobha Tuli, Secretary of Thalassemics India, and which is the first Indian parent organization working for thalassemia in India. Welcome to our show, ma'am. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me here today.
Thank you, ma'am. We are a great fan and we respect you a lot for your work done in the last almost 4 decades, which is commendable in the sector of thalassemia. And we know how much of challenges, hardships you would have faced in this sector. As I just said, it is the first parent organization set up for the thalassemia in India. So this being fun of its own kind comes with own challenges. And we are going to talk about it in the coming conversation we are going to have. But I would just like to know, how did you come up with this idea of, having this organization, and what motivated you? What was the need you felt that is required for this?
Well, it's a long story, but to cut it short, in 1970s, when I heard the word thalassemia for the first time, because my daughter was born with thalassemia major. So at that time, there was no NGO in the country. And when I tried to get a book where I can read what is thalassemia and what is the future of my child, one of the doctors showed me a book where I could only find out that thalassemia is a genetic, hereditary disease, not even disorder. So it was something I was very much disappointed, because any mother would like to have, healthy children. And once you come to know that your child's future is, or your life is dependent on the repeated blood transfusions, you get worried and you want to know that how better you can make it for the child and particular child, and also to find out what is the future, what is to be done, what is the real treatment after that. So the treatment options were given, but I was not satisfied with whatever answers I could get at that time. And I remember very well that I took up, Air India flight, and I went to UCL London. I met Professor Weatheron, who is the father of thalassemia, known in worldwide, and where I stayed there for 2 days, and I tried to meet the doctors there and try to find out what exactly thalassemia, what is the treatment, right? Because I wanted to make my child, grow healthy and not with the other problems, So I came back educated from there. So when we came back here, and I found that there are other parents also and who have got thalassemia major child. So then a few parents, 10 of us, got together and we said that, well, we need to form an NGO, because otherwise we are lost. If we have to ask for anything, we don't know where to go. There are no books there, no proper, and the approach at that time of the doctors was also very negative. What it is today now, when we see a doctor, they will say, of course, our children have got future. They can live healthy lives in case they receive the recommended treatment. But those days were very different. So that is how we decided, and we formed that first NGO in our country known as Thalassemics India.
That's great, ma'am. You gathered the voices, you made an organization where collectively, organization, society, community, with the help of government, can work towards not even eradicating, but helping the of course, or thalassemia. And if we talk about this year's theme, that is also uniting for universal access to thalassemia care. So we all are uniting for it. And I think these causes require great collaborations. So what are your thoughts on, ma'am, collaborations, and how collaborations can make an impact in creating this awareness or providing them access to care and support in case of thalassemia, and how it has affected the Thalassemics India's journey?
Well, you have very rightly said that it needs collaborations. Without that, and we all hear, here and there that, well, unity is the strength. Alone one person cannot work, especially in such a difficult area. So our first attempt was to get closer to the hospitals and the doctors, because these patients are going to receive treatment from the hospitals. So first was to make them understand our problems and that they should support us. So our first collaboration was with Sir Gangaram Hospital, where later on, unfortunately, it was the thalassemia unit was named after my daughter, known as Shobha Tuli Thalassemia Unit. But we started that unit there, and at the same time, I remember there was NDMC Charakpalika Hospital. There was another unit, and slowly, with the passing of time, we managed to convince other. We tried to find out, go beyond Delhi, that what is the condition there in other cities. So we found that, well, there is a need that more thalassemia NGOs should be formed up, should be established, so that they can, they can work towards, they can look after the patients during in those areas. So first was the collaboration with the hospitals, the doctors, and of course the medical authorities, the blood banks, because these patients' life is dependent on blood. That is, without them they cannot survive. And every time each patient has to undergo 1 to 3 units of blood in a month for lifelong. So you can imagine how many pricks, that patient will get it, for just to live. Without blood, they cannot live. So our first challenge was that. So we started opening the thalassemia units, started establishing, tried to convince the other states, and where the parent bodies were strong, that they should establish the thalassemia NGOs. And the third was the printing of the literature, that is a reliable information. And the fourth was, of course, how can we reach out to doctors and patients and parents? We thought that we need to do workshops, we need to organize the conferences, whereas the international conferences as well as the national conferences. So that is how we moved. And of course, you will agree with me that no project is successful if we do not have the support from the government, which is very, very important. Without government support, no NGOs can move forward. They may walk a few miles, but then it will be stopped. Government की जो एक अपना रोल है, जो उनकी एक अपना अस्तित्व है, उसके बिना we cannot move forward. So it has to be from the very beginning, We started taking our problems to the government, whether it is Delhi government, whether it is any other government in the states, and to the Ministry of Health, Family Welfare, Government of India also, Ministry of Social Justice, Empowerment also. And slowly, we found, but we were, from the very beginning, we were very clear. We will go, request, plead, We are not that type of people, involved in this organization. कि हम कोई धरना करेंगे, हम कुछ protest करेंगे. I don't believe in all these things. So I have found that you have to create your respectability in that organization, whether it is a hospital, whether it is any medical forum, whether it is a state government, whether it is a central government. You have to prove them first, who you are, what work you have been doing it, because background is very important. So that is what, and we moved on that direction only. And then meanwhile, we established connections with the Thalassemia International Federation also. At present, I happen to be the secretary of Thalassemia International Federation, which is based in Cyprus. So from India, Thalassemics India is the voting member of TIFF. That's the short form of Thalassemia International Federation. So we maintain connections with them. And that is how the reliable information, the printed materials came to our country. Like I told you earlier that I couldn't find a book. And now if people walk in our office and they can find all type of literature. And now of course we have the digital information also available, which patients and parents have got no problems. All the NGOs have their websites. So the things have changed to a greater extent. But still, we are not there till, because we have great hopes, and the hopes are towards our patients' growth, well-being, and of course towards the community also. Because you see, this disease is preventable. If it is preventable, we need the support of the people, general public. Well, know more about thalassemia. Once if a child is born with thalassemia major in your family, you have to start with the regular treatment, and the cost of this treatment is 1 lakh, which can go up to 3 lakh per year. and you can imagine for life how many pricks that child will have while giving the transfusion. And earlier, there was only one iron chelation. I remember giving pump to my daughter at night, which is an electronic pump, and that every night I used to prick her in the stomach or on the thigh or on the, on the arm, and the Desferol medicine would go the whole night. So the patient has to sleep with the pump throughout the night. In the morning, I used to take it out and she was ready to go to school, So now, of course, we have the oral chelators and it is much easier. But still, just taking the pill early in the morning, and then they have each medicine has the side effects. And so many things are, interconnected with this treatment, that when if it is not properly taken, half-heartedly taken because the patient cannot afford it, and then the results are not that great. So that's what, it is the various things which we thought that, it has to be, we need the cooperation of all these bodies. Without that, one cannot move on.
Ma'am, the thing just explained us about how difficult it is, especially financially, and also to get that blood transfusion done. And it's 2 to 3 units every month required, and lot of pricks going on the pumps, and it becomes very difficult for a person to live with this and to continue the life. And you have seen your daughter that way, and you've been the secretary, you're working in this sector for almost 4 decades. So I believe there's a lot of challenges a patient goes through, the family goes through. But I would like to know, firstly, as a secretary of Thalassemics India, you just explained the backstory of it. I want to know, what is your vision as of now for the coming days? What are the efforts which Thalassemics India is putting in collaboration with government? What are the new plans they're coming up, and how can this affect an access of care and support for actually providing the support to the community?
Okay, so I'll first reply to the challenges, what the patients. So earlier challenges were very different from what are the recent challenges. So just briefly, I'll tell you what were the earlier challenges. At that time, to get a blood or bag was the biggest challenge. That's one thing. And the second was because it's expensive treatment. And I'll be very honest with you that we have about more than 100,000 thalassemia major patients in our country. There is no registry at the moment, but this is what has been quoted in the books about 20 years back, and till then the same numbers has been registered there. And since there's no registry, so no one has come up with that, what is the recent number. According to me, it must be about 200,000 patients living in our country with thalassemia major. And it gives me pain to hear when I go abroad in the meetings when people talk about that India is the capital of thalassemia. It really gives me pain as a mother, because I feel very proud of my country, and I want that whenever we go out, and we should be talked about. Of course, we agree, everyone knows that since the population is more, as compared to the other countries, we can't compare it to the small countries like Germany or Greece, So our problems are very different. We have the other issues, our government has other issues to focus on first, So, but at the same time, being a mother of a thalassemia child and being associated with various NGOs, and especially with my parent organization, Thalassemics India, for so many years, So I feel this taboo and this stigma should not be talked about anymore. So I feel very proud to say that with the passing of time and the kind of reputation that we made in India and abroad, we managed to start our various projects with the main, important bodies in our country. I'll start with, first, of course, I told you with Gangaram Hospital, we established a thalassemia unit. Our next unit is at St. Stephen Hospital. And then with Indian Red Cross Society, we have opened up a center for thalassemia screening and counseling. So there we have a staff. It is running very successfully. And then, since the only cure for thalassemia patients is bone marrow transplant. So in 2017, a project was started by Ministry of Health, Family Welfare, Government of India and Coal India Limited. And they nominated Thalassemics India to run this project as the coordinating body. So it has been running very successfully since 2017. It has entered the third phase now. Under this project, each patient gets about 10 lakh of rupee for the bone marrow transplant, which we can talk about later on if you want to know more about this project, And then was, of course, apart from that, we convinced the governments that, well, there is a Ayushman Bharat scheme available where a family can get up to 5 lakh of rupee per year for their treatment. So why not thalassemia could be included in that? And I'll be, first of all, I would like to thank NHA, National Health Authority and Ministry, that they have included this thalassemia, and they have made 6 special packages, and where the patients, if they go to the nominated hospitals, which are government as well as private, they can get the treatment free of cost if they register there. And that is, the blood transfusion is free, the iron chelation medicines are free, and even investigations are free. So this is a very good, that of course it has happened because of our consistent efforts and the follow-up with the ministry. But of course, the ministry government has to decide it. So we are very grateful to them. And then, I don't know whether you have heard about the RPWD Act. And this was 2016 Act, where thalassemia is also included as one of the disabilities. So recently, earlier, the certificate UDID cards were to be issued for 1 year. So now we convinced and we pleaded, as I said, that I believe in that with follow-up requests and all that. And we said that, and they listened to us. And I'm again very grateful to the ministry that they have made that the UDID cards will be issued for life to all the patients, thalassemia patients, till a cure if a patient goes for bone marrow, and then they have to come up and there are certain procedures and all that, So these are the things. Then we did a very big project with UCL London. So this was T2 MRI is a high-end investigation. I don't know whether you have heard about it, but what patients, when they take so much of blood, so iron gets deposited in their blood. So it is very important to get that iron out of their body. One cannot have a big amount of iron in the body and then can live. There can be many complications. Then there will be complications. So in order to find out how much iron is in the body, so we need to get the T2 MRI test done. This is only available in 3 places in our country, 1 in Mumbai and 2 in Delhi. But we wanted to see whether this procedure or whatever we are doing is it perfect or there is some scope of improving it. So we started a project with UCL London, and the doctors were there in our country, Delhi, and projects were in Delhi and in Jaipur, and it was a very fast type of T2 MRI for 8. So we are waiting the results, that how we can get that software developed and all this. So these are the major, projects and the collaborations which has happened just recently within the last few years. And then is, of course, a very big, it was something, I would say that I was very happy on that day in 2016. NHM, Government of India, like I told you earlier, that I couldn't find a book, to read out what is thalassemia. Now, of course, we can find many books, but a book has to come from the Government of India. So National Health Mission came up, released the guidelines in 2016. I was also one of the contributors, and they are there now. Now we are requesting again the Government of India, Ministry of Health, to revise these guidelines. And then, of course, the national policy draft was also made, which is only draft is made. But what we're looking upon government is that when the national policy should be made.
That's great, ma'am. And I think you reflected on most of the paths, the journeys the Thalassemics India is planning to do, is working on, and then how it was earlier so difficult, and now slowly and gradually by the work done by Thalassemics India is actually improving. And we can see the happiness, the satisfaction, the way you're telling us, explaining us the journey, the achievements we are coming up with. But there's always a point where the person who's affected by thalassemia, gets affected by the routine, and most importantly, how they get the quality access of healthcare. It is very difficult for them to get that. There could be so many problems in their way, and with the thalassemia, they have the problem they already have. They cannot afford any more negligence on their quality healthcare part. So what do you think are the challenges on the access of quality the person affected by thalassemia faces every day, and how can we, as government together and Thalassemics India, can provide them this thing?
Well, if you go to the remote areas or to the smaller cities, the challenges are very different from the other cities. So if a patient is taking blood transfusion or the treatment in cities like Mumbai, Calcutta, Delhi, and even UP, so they can get a better treatment. But if you go towards Bihar, and if you go towards, if the patient is from Uttarakhand or some other states, or especially in the smaller regions, so then where there's no blood bank, doctors are not available. So many times we hear that the patients are traveling 100 miles to come to the other city, to come to the other hospital, to find the doctor and take the blood transfusion, and then go back home. So since our geographical, of our country is so big, it's a huge country, and we don't have that kind of facilities, I will say the equal kind of facilities, or the facilities which are required for their treatment is not equal. So there is a difference, and there's quite a lot of difference, I will say. So it depends on, if a patient is living in Delhi, at the moment, what they're talking about, they can get blood, okay? There are various blood banks which will give them the blood on time. Sometimes the replacement problems come up, but now they're demanding about that the blood should be safe, which is, I think, their right to get it. I feel when we formed this NGO, and the first thing was that our duty is towards the recent or the existing patients. I won't say recent, but the existing patients. We have to focus on them. We have to look at them, that whatever treatment is required by them, what is recommended by the doctors, is available. The ideal thing is that it should be available free of cost. They should not pay. It should be given by the government, whether it is the state government or the central government. But it's not happening in India like that. In some of the states, we all know that health is a state subject. So in some of the states, they're receiving free of cost treatment. Sometimes, of course, there are problems. There's a shortage of iron chelation drugs. They are the separate issues, which any country can have it. But there are other states where, in spite of health being the state subject, they are not provided the recommended treatment. So it is out of the patient's pocket. They are spending money. Like, I would like to share with you that nearly 80% of our patients living in India, they have to pay the treatment cost from their own pockets. So when the treatment is so expensive, and there are like every 15 days, one has to go for blood transfusion. If the child is small, maybe 3 weeks or a month. But as they grow up, they go twice a month, to take that 2 or 3 or 4 units of blood. So you can imagine that, 15 दिन बीतने में क्या टाइम लगता है, कुछ भी नहीं लगता. So उनको next transfusion उनकी due हो गई है. So now in Delhi, the challenge is they are asking, our patients have grown up. They are saying, well, we need the safe blood, and they are very right. So they want that the blood should be NAT tested, so that at least the infection chance is less, because we have found that in spite of the regular blood tests that they get in Delhi and they get the blood, sometimes the patients can get the hepatitis also. But if it is NAT tested, which is the ideal, blood transfusion, so it should be what I would request in states like that well, it should be blood on time, adequate blood, no replacement should be there, and second, it should be NAT tested. So at least the first thing which they require to live is being provided by either the government or by the hospitals or by the blood banks, free of cost to our children. But if we go to the other states, this is not happening. So many times I hear that the patients need, that the ideal hemoglobin they have to maintain is the blood transfusion should happen when the hemoglobin is 9.5. So many times I hear from parents that their child could not get the blood because there was a shortage of blood. So the doctor has said that, well, the hemoglobin is 8. So you go back home. When the hemoglobin is 7, you come back, So there's a different kind of a challenge in those places. And then, of course, is the money, the financial issues. If a family income is about in a year 2 lakh of rupee, how do you expect a family to buy the drugs for their child? So what happens is the child will be only dependent on blood transfusions, and no chelation will ever happen because they don't have the funds. So I'm sorry to say, the family has to lose that child in the prime of youth. So which is something that we all need to look at. So what Thalassemics India is trying their best for so many years. We started a project in 2000, which is now entered 24 years, Helping Hands project. So there are many underprivileged children who cannot afford the costly medicines. They cannot afford doctor's fees. They cannot afford investigations, even including the high end. Because as you grow up, you need to get this test done, So we help them by giving all of them free of cost. But in 2023, because yesterday only I presented these figures in one of the meetings, we were able to help only 494 patients. That's all, not more than that. Because on that we have spent 41 lakh and 40,000 on these children. So as and when we get the funds from corporate under CSR, we extend that same kind of a facility, or we spend it on these patients so that they get the best of the treatment, whatever we receive as the funding. So the challenges are many, and the second biggest challenge is that we have to change the mindset of the parents also. Sometimes the parents say that, well, this kind of problems come up from a smaller places. They feel that the child doesn't have a life. There's not enough hope for them, So they do not continue with the treatment. So the doctors need to focus on, that how we can change the mindset of the people. That has slowly, we have tried our best, and that has improved to a greater length. But still, like I said, that we haven't finished up with our job. Where we want to reach is, I want to see in my country that each and every patient with thalassemia major should get treatment, recommended treatment, which includes blood transfusion on time, iron chelation, investigations, high-end investigations, including high-end investigations, and cure, if possible, if they get a donor and all that, free of cost, either from the state government or from the central government. And second, since thalassemia is a preventable blood disorder, we all need to know, the people, the general public should try to know more about thalassemia. Since it's preventable, why don't you go on time to get a simple blood test done to know whether you are a thalassemia carrier or not? Because the problem comes up when the child is born with thalassemia major only if both the mother and the father are thalassemia carriers. If you are found to be a carrier, if one person is found to be a carrier and the other is normal, they can go ahead with the marriage and even with the pregnancy. The only thing will happen is either they'll have the normal children or they will have the carriers. So carriers is no problem, it's not a disease. A carrier hemoglobin could be from 10 to 12. They can live as long as their lifespan is like a normal human being. That's not a disease. But if both are found to be carriers, so then they have to either not get married to each other, or if they still want to get married, I don't want to discourage, I don't want any stigma on the women or on the men in our country. Because in foreign, the marriages take place in church. In our country, it's the arranged marriages. So even if they are found to be carriers, there's no problem. Marriage has taken place. Before planning a family, please go to your gynecologist and ask them what are the tests, and ask if she doesn't write thalassemia carrier, ask her and get that test written in the investigation slip and get it done on time. If you both are found to be carriers, there is a test known as Cronus-Villus sampling CVS, which can be done before the 12th week of pregnancy to find out if the child in the fetus is thalassemia major. If it's major, go ahead with the termination, abortion. If it is carrier or normal, you can carry on with your pregnancy. So, and another thing which I am expecting from the general public and community is, blood will come from human beings. So these children whose life is dependent on blood, please help them. Donate blood regularly so that they can bless you. If you don't donate, then also we'll bless you. But you will get more blessings from their hearts, because they will get a bag of blood on time and they can live. So these are the few things which I feel that each one of us should understand. Not try to say that, well, let everything comes from the government. We also have to contribute something to our community and to our society, to our country, and to the people who are affected. And if you can contribute and adopt thalassemia children for their treatment, come forward, contact us, and we will give you a platform and opportunity to help them.
That's great, ma'am. You have expressed or let us know about the entire journey of you in Thalassemics India, the motivation, the need of it, the challenges, the milestones covered, and how each and every person, whether it's corporate, government, NGOs, individual there, how can they work on this? So this is the cause thalassemia, and every NGO, every person in the society should work for the cause and should come up with a solution. The last message, the last advice you would like to give up to each and every person in the community, how can they come forward to the support and care of thalassemia in India?
So the last message I would say is that, well, come forward, donate blood, adopt a thalassemia child for treatment purpose, be supportive, be cooperative, and the help should come from here, from your heart. And the message to the government is, of course, to start the elimination of thalassemia as soon as possible program and give free access healthcare to all our patients, and it should be a standardized treatment protocols which should be available all over the country. And the first need of our children is blood, so it should be safe blood.
That's great, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing your entire journey with us. It is an honor to have you with us, to get to know so much of insights and that how Thalassemics India is working for this cause, how you guys are pushing the each and every section of the society so that we can come together and fight this and could come up that vision that is of yours, that is called mission and vision, to eliminate thalassemia and to make India thalassemia mukt. That is a great vision. Definitely with together efforts, we'll come across that. We'll achieve this. And thank you so much for your time and sharing your experiences with us.
I would like to thank you, thank Voice of Healthcare, for giving me this opportunity to talk about thalassemia, about our organization Thalassemics India, and about the work that we have been doing it. So, thanks to you.
Thank you so much.